today for some epic surf news. Today I'm going to go over a handful of things that have happened in the surf world over the last month and a half or so. So to start out, I'm going to mention that the waves have been really good in Southern California over the last couple months, maybe 2.5, 3 months, but in the last month and a half it's been really good. All local spots from, let's say, San Clemente down to the border. And ran into a fellow surfer down at the spot who happened to have one of these available, and he gave it to me. So super stoked to get this. I actually did go to the Founders Cup, but I didn't score one of these scorecards, perfect 10, so this will be one that I should probably laminate so I can get a little wet and I can throw it up to my boys out there in the lineup when they get a wave. So I was watching a WSL webcast of a surfing event recently and noticed the Jeep car commercial was on there, and something that caught my attention in watching the commercial, and I think has been coming up in the surf world here and there over the last couple of years, is how to put a board on the car. So for me growing up, it was always board on top, fins kind of in the front, pointiness in the back, or the nose of the board actually on the back of the car, straps go over. You know, it probably doesn't really matter which way the boards go. I just know growing up in Southern California, it seemed like there was one way to do it, and if you did it the other way, you might be considered a kook, or people might heckle you for it. So what is the rationale for which way your board goes is another good question. I think probably part of it was people thinking that if the straps were there and the fins were there, that if the wind or anything pulled it, it might have a chance and catch the straps before flying off the car or something of that sort. Basically, if the board is strapped on there, it's probably not going anywhere. So lately, I think people like the Inertia and some other people have been kind of pushing ideas of maybe aerodynamics. Boards should be put on the racks in reverse from the way I've been doing it. Maybe that's so. It might make sense in terms of aerodynamics, but I'm still going to keep doing it the old way. And so that notion was reinforced again by Jeep in their commercial. They have their boards on what I would call backwards. But they're driving around town, through the country, along the coast, just happy-go-lucky with their boards set up that way. So if you see the commercial, you might want to take a notice. If you have any feedback or you have any input about how your board should go, how you've seen it go, any reasons why you should do it a certain way, put it down in the comments, send me a video back, send me stories, anything of that sort. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm probably going to keep doing it backwards when I do it. And a lot of times these days, if I don't need to put it on the roof, it goes right in the passenger seat or through the back trunk, and nice and cozy inside the car with the AC or heat and a seat belt even maybe on it. So my next topic is going to be related to Kelly Slater and World Surf League. So I'm going to try to be careful here, be a little delicate. Kelly Slater is definitely one of my heroes, one of the best surfers out there. I mean, the guy surfs amazing even at our age. I'm about his age, so don't be mad at me, Kelly Slater, about bringing up age. But, you know, I definitely want to talk about something that it's kind of been more bubbling to the surface with this new wave pull out, the surf ranch. So having been to the surf ranch, the wave is amazing looking. It's definitely something I'd love to try. I haven't had a chance to try it yet. Got to watch the pros rip it up, and I've seen a million videos like everybody else of waves being ridden at the surf ranch. Like you might be a little bit, your senses might be dulled a little bit from watching it all and not being able to actually do something about it. So one of the things that's happening is there's a lot of different people being invited to the surf ranch. Some of them in the surf world, a lot of them competitors, people training, all that kind of makes sense to me. There's also some other people that are kind of maybe important people to the sport who don't compete or don't compete currently, who've been going to the surf ranch. And then there's the friends and entourages and so forth. With that, there's rumors that people can actually pay to go to the surf ranch. The price is way up there. If you've heard, I'm not going to throw any numbers out, but it sounds like you got to have either a large amount of money or group in with a bunch of other people to ride this wave. And so as part of the people that are not related to surfing in terms of the industry that have been surfing it have been athletes from other sports in some cases, news reporters in other cases, but lately there's been some football players riding this wave. And don't get me wrong, I love surfing, I love teaching people how to surf. I like to encourage people to start surfing, try surfing, not give up on surfing. So I'm all about that. So with that said, it doesn't mean that I don't have my own opinions or 2 cents on how this wave machine should be run. It is a private venture, so my opinions really don't matter, and maybe neither do yours, unless everybody decides to chime in and let WSL know how they feel, which has been happening as well. There just hasn't been some concerted effort to try and maybe push some ideas their way, or at least have them listen up to them versus defending their position at this time. So with that said as well, recently WSL posted another pic of a football player surfing his fun-sized board in the barrel at the wave pool. And you know, I was just checking that out. Again, my senses were a little bit dulled. I kind of glazed over it. And then some comments started to catch my eye and my attention there. And a number of people had gripes and complaints or ideas. And within that, I saw Kelly Slater jumping in, which is actually, you know, something he doesn't have to do with his time. But he seems compelled or wants to get into the dialogue with people. So he's in there, you know, providing some of the logic and rationale to the way that this business or this particular innovation has been handled. And in some cases, Slater sounds a little defensive, which I could definitely understand. As you can see here, someone put their gripe on the string. Kelly Slater responds. And for Kelly Slater, he sounded very capitalist, which is American, I guess, in that sense. But his capitalism may have sounded a little bit more on the ruthless side. Basically, he's telling somebody, hey, he's not stopping anybody from, you know, becoming a baller in this society and anteing up, and they're the demand for what they're offering and willing to pay. So they have the budget and can afford to pay for what WSL and Kelly Slater is offering here. So, you know, granted, that is true. It sounds a little rough coming from Slater. Again, it's all typed out, shorthand. People like Kelly Slater and even the people who are griping online have a little bit of limitations on fleshing out what they're trying to say. So, you know, we have to give Kelly Slater the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure he would round out his statements if he was in person or here to go ahead and talk about this topic. So I chimed in as well. I gave some of my input. I was, you know, had a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth from that statement of, you know, he's not standing in anybody's way to come surf this thing. And I can understand how WSL is trying to lean on or incorporate or bridge their sport in with pretty much the most popular sport in the country, one that garners some of the most revenues, most TV time, gets a lot of spotlight in the world. I made it a point to go in and point out to Kelly Slater that football, as great as it is, as fun as it is to watch, is also part of some systemic problems in terms of sports and how it relates to monies getting to people who are trying to get ahead in the world. And I'm going to give you an example. I have two daughters myself, and they're old enough now where they've come out of high school. One's out of college, one's in college at this time. So what I noticed, both my kids worked very, very hard in school, did a lot of studying, a lot of volunteering, were involved in a variety of sports. And what I didn't know, at least until the time when scholarships were being handed out at the school, you know, I was dressed up with my kid, arrived there, I knew she was going to be getting a grant of some sort or a few different grants. So what I noticed though is that the football grant, these kids were getting in excess of $100,000 plus other grants they were getting, or piggybacking on top of that. That's a huge amount of money. That dwarfed any other grant scholarship that I witnessed being handed out. I mean, and these were for kids that were volunteering, you know, in the nursing industry, for old folks, for military, for fire, for, I mean, people that just had impeccable academic successes. And so to see that lopsidedness was very disheartening because I don't know about you out there in the world, but I didn't see anybody at my daughter's school or any school that I've heard of girls getting a football scholarship. So I get it, football people should be able to hand out money to other people who are trying to come down their way to get somewhere in the world to then make more money, right? And if your kids are in sports in a high school and it's not football, you might, keep your ear open, and a lot of times, the other sports have to kind of be grateful and to the football group within the sports department, because they might be getting money and then they're spending it on buses for the other sports, and some of that trickles down. But the trickle down is very light, and so when the academic system works like this, football, for all its greatness, also has some systemic things going on that maybe aren't equal for women, and WSL has just kind of decided to cross that bridge in providing equal pay for women, at least in terms of 2019. So that's huge for WSL, that's huge for surfers, huge for daughters like mine and anybody out there. So I appreciate and respect Kelly Slater and WSL and all the people that have pushed to make that happen. But with that said, that wokeness shouldn't, allow Kelly Slater, WSL, and other people to just, kind of look at football as just, oh, this is this other sport out in the world that, we can kind of partner with or collab with or give shout outs to, without, trying to equalize that kind of notion about football isn't a perfect sport, and how can football, maybe they can work with football to figure out how they can kind of, make scholarships or make the sporting departments or the budgets a little more fair for everyone. And so I'm going to take it a step farther with that. I have noticed, on a good note, WSL has had some people give lessons or give the opportunity to people with disabilities to surf the wave pool on a handful of times. And maybe it's more than I know, because I'm not watching all the videos and following everything going on at the surf ranch. So I appreciate that. I saw that. I think that's a great thing. Definitely in proportion to the amount of videos I see coming out of the surf ranch, I'd say that the amount of people with disabilities getting the opportunities, like a drop in the bucket. So I went ahead and chimed in with that as well. I would like to see WSL stepping up, and as you can see in the response for Kelly Slater, he's talking about demand, and which is supply and demand, which is part of capitalism and part of anything going on in the world. So he's kind of taking this hands-off position in terms of, hey, the people that are balling and working hard out in the world, he can't stop them, and in fact wants to encourage them to come pay for their experience. At the same time, Kelly Slater and World Surf League are creating the supply. So there's not 100 of these wave pools. There's not 2 wave pools. I mean, in California, there's one surf ranch. I mean, there's one surf ranch in the world right now. So when you control the supply, you definitely can have an impact on the demand. So my input and my suggestion was that if these people have the money to ante up, let's say 6, 7, 10,000, 40,000, 80,000, whatever numbers are coming across for these people to come and hang out for the day or for a period of time to surf the pool, I am sure that those same people, let's just say for example, won't miss an extra $1,000 or $2,000, and that money could go to be allocated for groups that are disenfranchised, let's say from surfing, from sports, and maybe even from society, so people with disabilities. There's groups out there like Surfers Healing, A Walk on Water, Waves of Impact, helping a bunch of people out there get an opportunity to surf. And I'll tell you, they're working in the ocean. The ocean is not an easy place to work with people who already have physical challenges or mental challenges to surf. So the wave pool is a great place to champion that and take that on. And I think if you are in control of the supply, I think you have influence over the demand, and I think some of these ballers out there that Kelly Slater's not stopping, he can also not stop them from paying a couple extra bucks and tell them it's for philanthropic or purposes of helping the greater society, especially when it comes to surfing. So I put my post there. Hopefully WSL, Kelly Slater don't bar me from the wave pool forever, don't blacklist me, but hey, I'm going to put it out there. Well, I got WSL on the ropes, so I'm going to keep sticking it to them. I'm not going to let you off easy this time. I want to go ahead and mention Beachgrit, which is getting a lot of heat, sounds like, in the last year or two from different people within the surfing industry about them hating or making fun of people and surfing, or making fun of surfing in general, in terms of sport and what have you. So as far as I'm concerned, I think surfing doesn't have enough media, doesn't have enough information going out there, or consolidation of information to share with people. You know, sites like Instagram and Facebook have allowed a lot of surfers to come out directly and post content and so forth. But to get, you know, editorial, I don't say objective, maybe biased editorial from people like Beachgrit, especially if it's humor. So the Beachgrit likes to clown WSL for professional surfing, how it runs, some of the people involved. So now they've picked out a new person. Of course, there's an incoming exec coming from the O network. So he's coming in. It might be a good thing. Nothing against him, but getting a little giggle from Beachgrit. This gentleman's coming on board. It looks like most of his Instagram and a lot of his posts have to do with SUP versus surfing. And, you know, nothing against SUP, but World Surf League definitely makes most of its money on short boarding, women's, men's, maybe some longboarding as well. On the flip side of that coin, if you're a surfer and you surf quite a bit at local spots, anywhere crowded spots, if you see somebody pull up with an SUP, you tend to think that person's trying to get an edge. They're trying to use the paddle, stand up farther out, get into the waves earlier. Sometimes they're dangerous, or hogging waves, or both. And at some lineups, there's actually rules against SUPs kind of commingling because of the hazards involved. But again, nothing against people who SUP. I think it's probably a fun sport. It looks like something to help round out your surfing and your water sportsmanship. I have noticed that this particular person has stated that surfing is the great equalizer, and that seems a bit ironic for somebody who's trying to pull up in the lineup with an SUP. It doesn't seem like they're trying to be equal with the rest of the people, you know, using their arms to paddle to get into waves. You know, it's not that he's on a longer board or a board with more foam. He's actually got an SUP. That's a big difference. So I hear somebody talking about equalization, and at the same time, I'm not quite seeing him want to, you know, get in the mix with the rest of the people out there who've been putting time into surfing and getting that paddle strength up. So I'm going to leave you with this oldie but goodie meme about SUP. I hope you get a giggle, but go ahead and check out Beachgrit as well. They're always trying to keep it real, or maybe keeping it not real. But you can be the judge and check them out. Sticking with World Surf League on a positive note, the Quiksilver and Roxy Pro France just completed. And I'm stoked to announce that Courtney Conlogue won the event for the women. She represents from Southern California, and she has just been super focused, and her level of skill has just keeps going up and up and up. So look out for her on pretty much every event coming up this year, next year, because she is going to be dominating. For the men, it was Julian Wilson, another person. He has been just on fire with the airs, with pretty much all of his surfing game at all the spots as well. So I've been waiting for Julian Wilson to kind of rise to the top a little bit more, and that's happening. Coming back around to more wave pool news, this time it's the wave pool in Waco, Texas, the BSR Cable Park. This particular wave pool has some really good footage, really fun waves. I was actually on the calendar looking at when I could schedule a time to go over there and check this place out, surf it myself. And at the same time, literally that day, news came out, New Jersey surfer dies. This particular surfer visited the wave pool in Waco, and apparently, according to the CDC, who went out there and did some testing, he contracted this particular virus that killed him in the wave pool or the surrounding water that feeds into the wave pool or lake. Condolences to the family of the surfer. There's really sad news, and at the same time, looking at this, it looks very important. So wave pools are new, and something like this is definitely new. So if I was a surfer, I'd be a little concerned about it. I'd definitely do some research. BSR Cable Park came back and actually denied the claim in their press release, although their park is shut down till spring, so that way they can do some maintenance and install a filtration system or a better system. So I have no idea why the water in this particular park looks so blue. A lot of people were weary of that, and I'm not sure why there wasn't a filtration system, considering that the public would be using this. So keep your eyes and ears open for more of that. The pool is scheduled to reopened up in the spring, I believe, of 2019. But very concerning news for this or any other wave park or wave pool, wave lake that's out there. Across the ocean in Australia, there's been a new wave pool as well that's just kind of opened up their doors, at least to a select few surfers out there to demo. What's interesting about this wave pool is the device that's used to create the waves. It's more like a buoy or a toilet bowl type of setup that raises up, comes back down, and creates a wave from the push of water. And then as that water hits the sandbar, it creates waves that break in both directions. So pretty cool. We haven't seen tons of footage from it, but definitely keep your eyes open for that. I'd love to try it out, so if the guys over there want to give me a round-trip ticket, I'm in. If you've been watching these new segments, I'm always trying to give out gems about surfing or different places to find surfing content. And the Greenroom Times is on Instagram. They have some hilarious stuff, including this meme right here. You got to check them out, give them a subscribe, and I guarantee you'll be giggling. Coming back around to Kelly Slater. Kelly Slater was on Joe Rogan's podcast. In this particular case, it was a 2-hour segment. So I don't think I've ever watched anything with Kelly Slater in it for 2 hours, but this is worth checking out. The podcast starts off with a bit more of UFC fighting talk, and Kelly Slater's a little bit slower on the contributions or the interactions, but as the podcast continues, they get into all kinds of stuff, of course, surfing as well, and it's definitely pretty cool, so check it out. Moving on to the Inertia, they published an article and a video related to Sal Masekela, who's a surfer and TV show host and snowboarding host and a variety of other things in the world, musician. So the topic of this particular write-up is about Sal's experience traveling to South Africa post-apartheid era, and yet really having society or the authorities come down on him. And the good news is that you'll read through the article and watch the video, and surfers try to stand up for him and look out for him. So check that out. It's very educational, eye-opening, and surfers continue to look out for fellow surfers around the world. We could all use it. Moving on, I recently went to a meeting for the Oceanside Longboard Surfing Club, and at this particular meeting they were giving out donations to 2 different organizations. The first organization was the El Camino High School Surf Team, which is located in Oceanside. So the team received $1,000. That's going to help them continue their program and make their program a bit more robust. And the second donation went to the Scholastic Surf Series, also known as SSS, and Carolyn Kramer. They received also $1,000 to help them with their program. The SSS, if you're not familiar with them, is an organization that helps middle school and high school kids compete, and then that organization feeds into the WSA, which is a larger organization that hosts events for people on the West Coast in surfing. And then from there, people can kind of move on to different directions in competitive surfing. So that's going to wrap up this Epic Surf News edition. Keep your eyes open for Supergirl Pro highlight videos that I've been publishing, and I think there's about 10 more to come out probably in the next couple weeks. From that point, there'll be some US Open highlight videos from the 2018 event in Huntington Beach as well. So thanks a lot, everybody. Have a nice day.